You did not just say that. Her voice sliced through the glass-walled office like thunder through calm rain. Daniel Kang didn't flinch. He sat behind his spotless desk, navy blue suit, gold-plated cufflinks, the kind of stillness that makes noise feel like a mistake. Across from him, Ada Nwakoy's hands trembled. Not from fear, never from fear, but from fury. Her sister's apron was still folded in her bag, proof of the insult that brought her here. If your sister wants her job, you'll have dinner with me, he repeated, cool, careless, as if the words were ordinary. The sentence hit again, heavier this time. Power wrapped in ice. Money dressed as kindness. Pride pretending to be logic. She stepped closer, rainwater dripping from her curls onto his polished floor. Do you even hear yourself? She asked, voice shaking. You think you can buy decency because your name is Kang. He looked up slowly, a faint line between his brows. It's just dinner. Ada laughed, short, bitter. It's not just dinner when my sister's dignity is the price tag. The silence that followed was thick enough to taste. Somewhere outside, the rain tapped against the glass, steady, judgmental. Hello family. Before we continue, please subscribe. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, Lagos, Seoul, London, or maybe somewhere in between. She wasn't supposed to be here. She was supposed to be sketching bridges, not burning them. But some fires are necessary. Because a few hours earlier, at the bus stop near Lake Washington, Chiamaka had stood shivering in her thin uniform. Her eyes were red, her voice small. He said he'd give me my job back if you'd date him, she whispered. Ada thought she misheard. But no. Her sister's lips formed the words again, slower, crueler. That was all it took for Ada Nwako to march straight to the Kang mansion. Thunder for a heartbeat, justice for a pulse. Back then, months ago, the dream had looked simple. A scholarship letter from Seattle University. A plane ticket her whole village celebrated like prophecy. Ada, the architect-to-be. Chiamaka, the loyal sister who said, I'll find work there. You'll focus on your books. They landed with 2 suitcases, one hope. Cold air bit through their Lagos jackets. Still, they smiled. Seattle felt like possibility wearing a gray coat. Chiamaka found work fast. Housekeeper for the wealthy Kang family, the ones with the mansion by Lake Washington and cars that purred instead of roared. Every Friday, Ada would bring puff-puff or plantain chips, tiny tastes of home that smelled like Mama's kitchen. That's where she first saw him, Daniel Kang, walking across marble floors like a man who never looked down. That rainy afternoon, he'd splashed muddy water all over her jeans, then said, Get in, I'll replace them. She'd said, The puddles saw me. He almost smiled. Almost. And somehow, that tiny almost stuck with him. But that was before arrogance turned into insult. Back in the present, Daniel's voice was quieter now. You're misunderstanding me. No, Ada snapped. I understand you perfectly. You think everything bends if you push hard enough. She leaned forward, palms flat on the glass. But my sister is not clay. She won't break for you. For the first time, something flickered behind his composure. A crack, a question, maybe guilt. She saw it and pressed on. You wear control like a suit, but underneath you're just afraid someone might tell you no. Daniel looked up sharply. Their eyes locked. For one long heartbeat, silence roared louder than thunder. Then Ada turned, grabbed the door handle, and left before her anger turned into tears. The hallway smelled of lemon polish and quiet wealth. She walked fast, heels clicking like a drumbeat of defiance. Outside, the rain met her again, cold, honest, cleansing. Seattle rain doesn't ask permission. It just falls. She pulled her jacket tight. Behind the window upstairs, someone watched, Mrs. Eunji Kang, Daniel's mother. She had seen the whole thing, every raised voice, every unspoken wound. Her eyes softened with understanding that mothers learn in silence. Maybe tonight, she thought, fate just introduced my son to his mirror. Ada reached the bus stop soaked but unbowed. Her sister rose from the bench. Did you talk to him? Ada exhaled, half laughing, half crying. Talk. I might have declared war. They both laughed, the sound small against the storm but strong enough to survive it. Above them, lightning stitched the sky in silver threads, like lines on the blueprint of destiny. Because this wasn't the end. This was the first crack in Daniel Kang's perfect glass world. Sit, Mrs. Kang said softly. Both of you. The words landed like gentle commands, polite, but impossible to disobey. Daniel froze halfway between the doorway and the long dining table. His mother's tone carried the same quiet authority that made boardroom men twice his age fall silent. Across from him, Ada stood uncertain, clutching her bag like armor. The smell of steamed rice, suya skewers, and ginger tea filled the air, strange fusion, but somehow comforting. Daniel frowned. "Mother, what is this about?" Mrs. Kang smiled, pouring tea into delicate porcelain cups. "A meal. Nothing more." But the look she gave him said everything more. Ada didn't plan to come here tonight. That morning, she'd promised Chiamaka she was done with the Kangs forever. But then her phone rang, a number she didn't recognize. The woman on the line spoke with calm grace. "My dear, I'm Mrs. Kang. I'd love to see you. It's about your sister's position." And that's how Ada found herself here again, standing in the golden light of the Kang mansion dining room, wondering if fate was playing games. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Mother, you didn't tell me we were having guests." Mrs. Kang stirred her tea. "You didn't tell me you were losing good employees." Ada blinked, surprised. Daniel's composure slipped for just a second. She looked from mother to son. Was this really happening? "Please," Mrs. Kang gestured toward a chair. "You've come all this way. Sit, eat." Dinner began in silence. The clink of silverware, the soft hum of a heater, the smell of sesame and pepper. Daniel stared at his plate as if it had insulted him. Ada focused on her fork, refusing to be the first to speak. Mrs. Kang moved gracefully between them, speaking now and then about ordinary things, flowers, weather, charity events, each word placed like a bridge over quiet water. Finally, she said gently, "You know, Daniel, when your father and I first met, I nearly threw soup on him." Daniel looked up, startled. Ada tried not to laugh. Mrs. Kang smiled. He was proud. Too proud. He thought saying sorry meant weakness. Until he learned that humility isn't defeat, it's wisdom. Her eyes flicked toward Ada. "Wouldn't you agree?" Ada nodded slowly. "Yes, Pride is heavy. It keeps you from walking forward." Daniel's fork paused mid-air. For the first time, he looked directly at her, not with arrogance, but something quieter. Something unsure. The air changed. A flash of memory hit Ada mid-bite. Back home in Enugu, Mama used to say, "When you eat with people who offend you, the food will test your forgiveness." She hadn't understood it then. But now, sitting across from the man who insulted her sister, she tasted every word. Bitterness. Patience. Understanding. Daniel cleared his throat. If this dinner was about apologies, consider it delivered. His voice was polite. Too polite. He stood abruptly, napkin folding crisp and final. "Running away again?" Mrs. Kang asked quietly. He froze at the doorway. She smiled faintly. "You inherit your father's pride. But remember, pride never built a bridge. It only builds walls." Ada watched him leave, heart thudding with a mix of anger and pity. He didn't look back, but his footsteps slowed before the stairs. Maybe, she thought, that meant something. Outside, the night wind pressed against the windows. The rain had stopped, but the sky still carried its scent, wet earth and forgiveness waiting to happen. Mrs. Kang turned to Ada. "You remind me of someone I used to be," she said softly. Ada smiled sadly. "Someone who argued with her son." Mrs. Kang laughed, gentle and true. "Someone who refused to bow to arrogance but still found grace." Ada hesitated. "About my sister's job." "Already handled," Mrs. Kang interrupted. "She'll return tomorrow. On her terms." Ada's eyes widened. "Thank you." The older woman's expression softened. "Don't thank me. Thank yourself, for speaking truth where others whispered." Then, in a lower tone, "My son needed to hear you, Ada. He just doesn't know it yet." Later that night, Daniel sat alone in his car, headlights painting the driveway silver. He gripped the steering wheel, her words echoing in his head. "You wear control like a suit, but underneath you're just afraid someone might tell you no." He exhaled, jaw tight. Inside his chest, something moved, guilt, confusion, maybe admiration. He didn't know. He only knew he couldn't stop thinking about her voice, the fire in it, the way it made his world feel too small. The rain started again, tapping the windshield in slow rhythm, like a heartbeat finding its pace. He whispered to himself, "She's just a girl." But the words didn't sound convincing. The next morning, at dawn, Ada walked by the lake near her campus. Mist curled above the water, soft and silver. She hugged her notebook to her chest. For the first time since she came to Seattle, She didn't know what to do next. Anger had burned out, leaving something gentler, like the ache after lightning. Behind her, a sleek black car stopped quietly. Daniel stepped out. "Ada," he called, voice low. She turned, startled. He looked tired, unsure, human. "I shouldn't have left like that," he said. She crossed her arms. "Then why did you?" He hesitated. "Because I don't know how to fix what I broke." The morning wind carried the silence between them, heavy with unfinished things. Then Ada said, not unkindly, "Maybe start by being real." And just like that, something shifted again. If you're still here, family, thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Through stories, we remind the world that love and humility can meet halfway. Tell us in the comments, where are you listening from? "I didn't come to bribe you," Daniel said quietly. "Then what did you come for?" Ada's eyes didn't blink. "Another offer." Her voice carried that same fire, measured, but sharp enough to pierce through pride. They stood under a maple tree near the university's architecture wing, where the morning mist hung low like unspoken truth. Daniel shoved his hands into his coat pockets. The world felt smaller when he faced her. "To apologize," he said. "Properly this time." Ada blinked. "You think sorry can erase what you did to my sister?" "No," he admitted. "But maybe it's a start." For a moment, Ada just stared at him. His tone was different, no arrogance, no armor. Just honesty. He looked almost uncomfortable in it, like a man trying to walk barefoot after years of wearing designer shoes. "You hurt someone who only showed your family kindness," she said quietly. Daniel's jaw tensed. "I know. And you embarrassed me." "I know that too." He looked at her sketches spread on the bench beside her, buildings and bridges drawn in soft pencil lines. "Architecture suits you," he said. "You build things. I only seem to tear them down." She wanted to stay angry. She really did. But that line, soft, genuine, melted something small in her chest. A breeze moved between them, lifting her curls, carrying the faint scent of rain and paper. For the first time, Daniel noticed how fragile she looked up close, yet how much strength lived behind her eyes. Ada finally sighed. "If this apology is real, prove it with actions. Not words." Daniel nodded slowly. "I will." And for once, she believed him. He kept his word. He didn't call her often, didn't force conversation, didn't show up with gifts. He simply showed up. When she stayed late in the studio, she'd sometimes glance up through the glass walls and see him sitting quietly in the lobby, holding 2 cups of coffee. She'd frown. "You don't give up easily, do you?" He'd smile faintly. "Architects never quit until the design stands." Sometimes, he'd drive her home when it rained, saying, "Don't argue, you're saving my car from another puddle disaster." She'd roll her eyes. But she never told him to stop. Their conversations stretched longer each day. She told him about home, about Enugu, about Harmattan mornings when the air smelled of dust and roasted corn. He told her about soul, about growing up as an heir, where every smile was rehearsed and every mistake carried a price. Little by little, their words built something between them, something fragile, something hopeful. One night, Ada was hunched over a table, working on her final year model. Cardboard, glue, precision, everything perfect until her hand slipped. The structure collapsed. She froze, staring at the ruin. When Daniel arrived minutes later with takeout and coffee, he found her sitting motionless, eyes glistening. "It took me 3 nights, she said, voice breaking. "Now it's ruined." He knelt beside her, rolling up his sleeves. "Then we rebuild." She laughed bitterly. "Easy for you to say. You have people who fix your messes." "Not anymore," he said softly. "Not this one." He picked up the scattered pieces, careful as if handling glass. "Show me where to start." They worked side by side, glue smearing their fingers, laughter breaking the silence. At one point, his hand brushed hers. Neither moved away. Ada felt her heartbeat stumble. She told herself it was just proximity, just fatigue. But deep down, something had changed. When the model finally stood again, stronger, steadier, Daniel sat back, smiling. "You see," he said. "It stands." Ada exhaled slowly, watching him. "You surprise me, Daniel Kang." He looked at her, eyes soft. "You make me want to be less like my father." She tilted her head. "Then start by being human." They both laughed, and the sound filled the quiet studio like a small miracle. Days became weeks. Daniel began joining her for lunch breaks, for evening walks by the lake, for moments that didn't need reasons. She started noticing the small things, how he opened doors without thinking, how he listened fully when she spoke, how he smiled more easily now. Mrs. Kang noticed too. One evening, she found them by the water, talking quietly. She didn't interrupt, just watched from a distance, smiling like someone who'd seen a seed finally sprout. Later, she told her son gently, "When you love a woman who challenges your ego, hold on to her. She'll build the man you're meant to be." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. Her words echoed like prayer. He sat at his desk, staring at his schedule, the flight back to Korea, the meetings waiting. Then he took out his phone and dialed. "Chiamaka," he said when she answered sleepily. "Sir, please tell your sister to meet me tomorrow evening. There's something I need to say face to face." Her tone was cautious. "If you hurt her again." "I won't," he said. "Not this time." He meant it. The next evening, Ada received a message. "Meet me at the rooftop of Kang Group headquarters. 7 p.m. Her heart stuttered. Part of her wanted to ignore it. Another part whispered, "Go." When the elevator doors opened, she gasped. The rooftop was transformed. String lights above, candles flickering like stars, the city of Seattle glowing beneath. Daniel stood in a black suit, holding a single white lily, her favorite flower. Ada's breath caught. "What is this?" she whispered. He smiled softly. "An apology, done properly this time. If you're still here, family, thank you. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Through these stories, we remind the world that change is possible, even for the proudest hearts. Tell us where you're listening from." "When I first met you, I saw a girl drenched in rain," Daniel said softly. "And I thought you were just another inconvenience." His voice trembled slightly under the glow of string lights. The rooftop wind carried the scent of lilies and city rain. Behind him, the skyline shimmered like a silver ocean. Ada stood frozen, the white lily trembling in her hand. The moment felt unreal, like stepping into a dream she didn't ask for but somehow belonged to. "Then you walked into my world," Daniel continued, "and made me see how small it really was." The city lights painted his face in gold and shadow, the kind of beauty that didn't ask for permission. He looked at her the way one looks at truth, steady, unblinking, and a little afraid. Ada's throat tightened. "Daniel, why am I here?" He stepped closer, careful, as though she might vanish if he moved too fast. "You're here because I owe you more than an apology," he said. "Because you changed me." Ada shook her head slightly. "People don't just change overnight." He smiled sadly. "You're right. But some people walk into your life and start rearranging the furniture in your soul. You can't go back to what it was before." The words struck something deep. She remembered the night she'd shouted at him in that cold glass office. The night she told him he wore control like a suit. The night she walked away thinking she'd never see him again. And yet, here he was. Not in a suit of power, but in humility. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, the kind that makes time stop. "I've spent my whole life chasing perfection," he said quietly. "But you taught me that love isn't about control. It's about courage. You once told me that money can't replace decency. I didn't understand then, but I do now." He knelt slowly, the lights reflecting in his eyes like distant stars. The entire city seemed to hold its breath. "Adiz Nwakoi," he said, "let me build something with you. Not a company, not an empire, a life. Will you marry me?" The wind picked up, playing softly with her curls. Ada felt her heart racing in two directions, toward him and away from fear. Tears threatened, but she blinked them back. "You're serious?" "I've never been more sure of anything," he said. Her laughter came out broken and beautiful. "Daniel Kang, you are impossible." He smiled. "Then I'll spend forever proving I'm worth the trouble." She covered her mouth, half laughing, half crying. "You know, I promised myself I'd never fall for a proud man again." He rose to his feet slowly. "Then I'll spend every day showing you that I'm not that man anymore." Ada looked at him for a long moment, at the sincerity in his eyes, the trembling in his voice, the man who had once thought he could buy the world and now only wanted to earn one woman's trust. Finally, she whispered, "Yes, Daniel. Yes, I will." And just like that, the world tilted into something softer. He slipped the ring onto her finger, simple silver, not extravagant, but perfect. It gleamed against her skin like a promise kept. Then he pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. For a moment, the cold Seattle air disappeared. It was just them, a girl who crossed an ocean and a man who crossed his own pride. Below them, the city hummed with traffic and life. Above them, the rain began again, light, steady, forgiving. Ada laughed through her tears. Even the weather remembers our story.